Hey there, guys. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys have had a good weekend so far. I know tomorrow I go back to work and start the work week over again. So hopefully you guys have had a great weekend. And this video I wanted to talk about something. It kind of has me questioning, and I kind of wanted to talk about it, considering the upcoming sale potentially of the Ottawa Senators and how much they might be worth. So it kind of led me into asking this particular question. But before I get into that, if you are new to the channel and you love jersey content, you love hockey content, you love hockey, just hockey in general, and like me, I love hockey. It is fantastic. It's the best sport in the world. And if you guys love hockey content, it'd be absolutely awesome and would be greatly appreciated if you would hit that subscribe button down there. Also, if you want to be notified of future videos that I upload, you can hit that little bell to be notified anytime a new video gets uploaded. So, I just did a video recently. I just did a video talking about the Ottawa Senators and what they're apparently going to sell for, which to me is absolutely insane, because I don't think they're worth what they might get sold for. But if they can get that kind of money, hey, more power to them. But it made me ask the question, because this has been it's been a topic. This has been a topic even ever since when Vegas came in and then Seattle came in, and it's a topic again now. It's the talk of expansion. The NHL has got 32 teams. They just expanded to 32 teams. We were certain, okay, that's it. That's it. You've got 32 teams. The playoff setup is literally perfect. It is, you have 16 of the 32 teams that get in the playoffs. So it's like, that's a great setup. But then the rumor came around about Atlanta wanting to get back into the NHL. And that's very, it's kind of a touchy subject about, does Atlanta deserve a third bite at the apple when you have Quebec, who has an arena all ready to go, an arena that was built specifically to get the NHL to come back to Quebec, and the NHL really has no appetite to go back to Quebec, which is too bad, because it's a great hockey market, but it's a small market. And the NHL, it's for them, it's all about money. Has nothing to do with whether or not a team is going to survive in a market, i.e. Arizona. That's why you've had the Arizona Coyotes in Arizona for over 25 years, because the NHL is so concerned about a team working in a market. If they were concerned about that, Arizona would have moved Arizona 15 years ago. Hell, they might have moved them almost 20 years ago, because they've been horribly ran, and they've never turned a profit. But it's a big market, so the NHL wanted to keep them there, and they've kept them there for this long, and it's looking like that they are going to be there for a long time to come. But it had me questioning the thought of expansion again, because you have the Ottawa Senators right now, who look like they are going to be sold the current price that somebody has bid, now I don't know if this is going to be what they sell it for, what they sell the team for, but the current bid from what I had read is, and I don't have the exact total, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $925 million. For a hockey team that has, they've had their rough times. They've had problems selling out their building. Even in the run that they almost made to the Stanley Cup Finals, they weren't selling out their arena. And the whole talk of a new arena deal in Ottawa has been, it's been such a cluster for the last number of years that, to me, they're not worth $925 million. To me, I'd say they might be worth the amount that Seattle's worth, or what Seattle paid to get into the NHL. That, I think, is where the Ottawa Senators sit, at least to me. Other people might think that they're worth, that kind of money. I don't see it. But again, if they can get that money, good for them. But it begged the question about, with the rumor of Atlanta coming in, does the NHL plan to expand again? And do they need to expand? They did back in the 90s. They went in the span of 10 years. About 10 years. They went from 21 teams to 30 in 10 years. Between 1991 and 2001. 9 teams. And we thought back then that was, going to dilute the product. Now there's a lot of people that are thinking, if the NHL expands again, that's going to really dilute the product again. It's different though now than it was then. The amount of players that are out there, the amount of skilled players that are out there is way more than it was back then. The expansion teams now, as compared to back then, the way they set up the expansion drafts, they're good right out of the gate. Within the first couple of years, they're a good team and potentially playoff teams. Vegas, we saw in their first year, they not only made the playoffs, but they made a run all the way to the Stanley Cup Final. This year, it's Seattle's second year, and they're currently sitting in a playoff spot. They might make the playoffs in their second year. So that's something to look at too, that if they do any more expanding, it will be beneficial to them, especially if these teams are putting out that kind of money. They want to make them decent out of the gate, which of course makes me think, God, why couldn't that have been the type of rules that when Minnesota came in, or when Minnesota came back in? But it also begs the question. Seattle came into the league. They spent $650 million to come into the league. The Ottawa Senators may sell for $925 million. The NHL, when it comes to expansion fees and how much they decide they're going to charge for a team, you want a team? Okay, you're going to pony up X amount of millions of dollars, and then here you go. If they were to expand again and go to say, because you can't just go to 33 teams, you got to go at least 2 more. You got to go to at least 34. I think honestly they should do one more big. If they're going to expand, if they're hell bent on expanding, you can separate this over a couple of years. You don't have to do it all in 1 year. You can separate it over a couple of years. One more big expansion. Go from 32 to 34 in 1 year, and then maybe the next year 34 to 36. Go to 36 teams, and that's it. Because look at what they could charge. What would they charge an expansion team now? Vegas costs $500 million. Seattle costs $650 million. Those expansion fees, they don't go to the players at all. The NHLPA cannot touch any of those expansion fees. That money is specifically divided up behind the 31 or 32 owners that you would have before, the other teams would come in. But what do you charge? You just charge Seattle $650 million. So, okay, Vegas was $500 million, Seattle was $650 million. That's the $150 million difference. So you expand one more time, what do? $800 million? $800 million for an NHL team that can be split up into 32 owners? Why with the way that the NHL loves money? Like I said, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter whether or not the market is any good, or whether or not the market is, not worth worth anything. If it's a big market, the NHL is going to stay there basically no matter what. Instead of, going to a market like Quebec or even Hartford, another small market, but they love their team. They kind of got their team ripped off from them also, because they just had an owner who didn't want to be there. And he was fighting the city at every turn. Right when they thought that they had a deal worked out, he threw another little monkey wrench in there, and eventually the city just said, you know what, we're done. And off they went. But, does the NHL, is expansion good? Is more expansion good for the NFL? NHL? Is it good for the NHL? If they expand to 34 or 36 teams in the next, say, 5 years, is that good for the game? Is it watering? Is it diluting the talent? With the amount of talent that is out there, between the European leagues, the Canadian junior teams, the college teams, I think it's very easy. I think the NHL not only could expand to 34, I think they could expand to 36, and it would not dilute the product. I don't think it would dilute the product whatsoever, because there are so many good players out there. And players that are, again, players, who are up and coming in the junior leagues, in college, over in Europe. I think it could be very beneficial. And look at how many more jobs that would give to, people who play hockey. I mean, look at how many more jobs you would have for each team. And the expansion fees that the owners could get is just mind-blowing. I mean, say you expanded to 34 teams, and you charged each team $800 million. That's $1.6 billion with a B. $1.6 billion split up between 32 owners. Oh, I don't know the math right off the top of my head, but man, that's mind-blowing. I mean, again, with the amount of, that they could charge, why wouldn't they? in the financial side, it'd be more than worth expanding for the owners. And then if you go to 36 teams a year after that, okay, so you charged $800 million. Let's just say if you're going up in increments of $150 million. Vegas was $500 million, Seattle $650, teams 33 and 34 $800 million, teams 35 and 36 $950 million. I mean, you're talking what, over 1.9 billion dollars. Again, not the greatest at figuring out math in my head. I only got C's in math, but still, absolutely mind-boggling. Now, I would think too, if you expanded to teams 35 and 36, the owners of teams 33 and 34 would not be in on that. It would still get split up, I think, between the 32 other owners. But good grief! I mean, you talk about rolling in money. I mean, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't the NHL think of expanding and doing one more big expansion over the next 5 years? To me, I think they'd be crazy not to. And if you did 36 teams, if you did end up doing 36 teams, obviously, to me, the logical choices would be Quebec, Hartford, Houston, because I know Houston's been in on wanting a team for the longest time. And the fourth team, now, I mean, I don't know if this would work in this particular city, because, I mean, they have an arena there that could be used. They don't have anybody who has any interest in bringing a team there. Maybe Kansas City? Maybe. I mean, Kansas City, it's kind of like my whole thing with Atlanta. I don't think Atlanta deserves a third bite at the apple. Kansas City, I just don't think there's the passion there for it. So where would you put a 36th team? Where could you put a 36th team? If you're not going back to Atlanta, which again, I don't think Atlanta deserves a third bite at the apple. Where could you put a 36th team? Hamilton? Why not? Hamilton, Ontario? Why not? I think it could work there. I think it could work in Hamilton. But again, but the thing with Hamilton is, I think they'd get a lot of pushback from Toronto, from the Toronto Maple Leafs. But, I think if the NHL did one more big expansion, and you don't have to do it all in one shot. You could spread it over a couple of years, go to 36 teams, and that's it. You then could probably bring in Quebec. You might even be able to bring in Hartford. But then, then you got Houston. That's a huge market down there. You'd have that in-state rivalry with the Dallas Stars, which I think could be a lot of fun. And then, Hamilton, maybe. Kansas City, maybe. I don't know. The 36th team would definitely be something to kind of think about. But I'd love to know what you guys think about that. Is the NHL expanding one more time or maybe two more times and going to 36 teams? Would that be good for the NHL? Now, if you did expand to 34 or 36 teams, you would have to change the playoff format. You would have to find a way. You'd have to you'd almost have to do like a play-in type setup. Where, I mean, you can still have 16 teams get in the playoffs, but you have play-ins. So maybe you get the top 6 seeds, and then the other 4 teams, you do a little play-in tournament similar to what the NBA does, and the winners of those 2 play-in tournaments get those last 2 spots in the playoffs, and then you continue to go as as the playoffs normally are. I think that would have to be a must. You would have to expand the playoffs if you expanded to 34 or 36 teams. But again, I'd love to know. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Do you think the NHL can? Are there enough players that could handle a 34 or a 36 team NHL? Do you think the talent would get watered down if they went to 34 or 36 teams? I don't know. I don't think the talent would be watered down at all, because I think there are so many really, really good players out there. So I don't think the talent pool would be watered down at all. But the amount of money that the NHL could bring in doing, expanding from 32 teams to 34 and then 34 to 36. Wow. Those figures just mind-blowing. And it all goes to the owners. It all goes to the owners. So let me know what you guys think about that in the comments section below. Love to know your guys' thoughts on if the NHL can handle expanding to 34 or 36 teams. Is it good? Would it be good for the league to do so? I'd love to know what you guys think. Hit like and subscribe if you have not done so already. If you want to be notified of future videos that I upload, don't be afraid to hit that little bell, and you'd be notified of any new content that comes up. And let me know what you guys think. Man, the amount of money the league could make if you expanded to 34 and 36 teams, that amount of money, holy mackerel. See you later.